Hands back and then just right, hit it right at the feet by accident. Brian was going up the
This should be relatively simple for you, but you are in 7th grade, and I would say you're probably good. Well, I can't say that. I'm still keep my job. Formulas, this is called transforming them. Which simply means this. Let's say we've got the basic, we'll use the one the book uses. Here's a simple formula that distance equals RT, which means what? We're talking, this is distance equals what? Rate times, anybody? Time. Meaning this. Alright, let's say you're going 50 miles an hour, that's your rate. If you drive for 2 hours, 50 miles an hour, add 2 hours means how far did you travel? I know that's hard math for most of you, but 50 times 2, don't look at me like that's a ton of 50 times 2, alright? That's what this formula tells you. You're going 100 miles an hour, you go for 6 hours, you go 600 miles. Well, when you get to the higher level of math, which scares me to say with this group, you need to be able to take this formula and work it around so that you can change it so that, let's say you're given the rate and distance, how would you be able to figure out the time?
Divide.
Okay. Now before you go spewing out just any old mathematical operation, let's just talk about that for a minute here. It follows the same rules any other math equation follows. Let's think about a math equation that has numbers in it. Let's say 3m equals 35. If you were asked to solve that for the letter m, which you have done multiple times, Lauren Ulrich, how do you get rid of the 3 in front of the m? You divide it. And then you would divide it by this, right? Those same rules, boys and girls and kids of all ages, apply even though there's no numbers over here. If I look at my distance equals rate times time thing, if I want to get, let's say I told you to solve this, solve for t, which is time. If I wanted to transform this formula so that it was t equals something, you follow the same rules you did over here. This is r times t, so to get rid of the r and get the t by itself, you always think opposites with that, which means, as Lauren said before, just like to separate the 3 and the m, I divided by 3. Well, this time I don't have a 3, I have an r, but you can still do it. Why? Because r divided by r is 1, which is a t, but you also have to divide this by r. So you can change this formula to solve for t. Now time equals whatever your distance is divided by rate. Which means, if I went 600 miles and my rate was 100 miles an hour, what would my time be? 600 divided by 100 is 6 hours or whatever it is. You could also solve this, d equals r times t. If I wanted to solve it for the letter r, what would I have to do? Chase?
Divide by t.
Yeah, divide by t, because it's still multiplication. You divide by t, they go away. You divide by t, you get r equals d times t. And you should be able to do that for any and every formula. Let's say we've got the circumference formula. Circumference equals pi times diameter, correct? If I were trying to figure out how to figure out pi, if I know the circumference and the diameter, what would I have to do? How do I get d by itself here? Caleb Fisher, maybe you see a pattern here. Divide by what? Pi. which means I'd have to divide this by pi. So diameter equals circumference divided by pi. Let's get real crazy. Well, maybe we shouldn't. Sure. Let's see if you can handle this. Looking back at yesterday's recent unpleasantness about writing formulas down. Andrew, the formula to find the area of a triangle equals what? 1/2 base times height. What if I asked you to solve that? Solve for h, or the height. If you knew the area of a triangle and you knew the base of the triangle, how could I find the height of the triangle? How can I get this h by itself? Well, that means you gotta get rid of both this 1/2 and this b. Let's get rid of the b first. And this is 1/2 times b times h. How do I get rid of timesing again? There seems to be a common theme here. Joseph?
Divide b.
Right, I'm going to divide this side by b, and look what happens. Divide this by b. So now area over b equals 1/2 h. Now this is where things get dicey, but believe it or not, I do believe we've had fractions in front of things before that we needed to get rid of. What was the common rule when you have a fraction in front of a letter that you want to get rid of? Please tell me that at least half of you could tell me what to do. If I had this, 1/2 m equals 5, how did I get rid of that half? Emma Miller?
Divide.
Which is what? Yes, we always go through this.
But you multiply, flip and multiply.
Flip and multiply, which means when I get to this point, what would I do? I would flip and multiply by 2 over 1. This goes away, guess what? I multiply by 2 over 1. And guess what I get? Height would equal 2 times the area divided by the base. Ooh, look at that for a formula. Isn't that exciting?
Yes, Mr.
It is. Let me look at actually one they give you. I want a harder one, because you should want a harder one. Oh, yes. Now, things get a little more dicey when you talk about squares. Not that any of you are squares, but if area equals pi times radius squared. Here's where you may have to put on the proverbial 7th grade thinking cap. What if I wanted to solve that for just radius? What if I knew the area of a circle and I wanted to find its radius? How can I transform that formula so that it's just r equals something? First, Zach says I would have to. Oh, look at that. So far, so good. Now, here's where things will get a little strange. So now, here, let me just put the r. Now I have r squared equals area over pi. I don't want r squared. I want the letter r by itself. Anybody, my kingdom for a horse. Now, before you get all frayed and confused and frightened about this, a common trick in math to do, if it confuses you with all these letters, just think about what you did when there were numbers there. What did I do when r squared equals like 15? How did I solve that for r? Oh, does nobody remember? Well, let me go back. Let's take another step back. I have a right triangle. I know that this side is 3 and this side is, let's say, 5. It's not going to work out because I don't want it to. If I do a squared, we've done this before, right, equals c squared. 3 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 25 equals c squared. C squared, which is kind of like r squared, equals 34. What did I do to say c equals something? How did I solve that for a singular c? Wait, I'm just going to wait till because hands are popping like little popcorn. We got 4 so far. Does nobody else have a clue? Mailus, do you have any idea how I solved? What did I say c equals? If c squared equals 34, what does c equal? Exactly. So guess what my answer over here is? If r squared equals a over pi, r, Lauren Ulrich, is going to be, no, I didn't take the square, I take this, the c squared goes to a c, we took the square root of what it equals, which is this. So r equals the square root of a over pi. Ooh. Now you're looking like math people. If you can look at that formula, you are all over the place there. How about that? Wasn't that fun? Oh wait, here's, check this one out. Ready? This is the creme de la creme. Let's look at the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. What if I asked you to solve that just for the letter c? Dramatic pause. Can we just refer back to the problem we just did? What did I do then when I had some squared by itself and equaled something? Hey, where's my little popcorn hands? Come on, people, somebody come. Liv, what do you think? Let me rewrite this. Let's just flip flop things. If I said c squared equals a squared plus b squared, and I wanted to solve that for c, I just want the letter c to be by itself. It's no different than what we just did here. What is this here? Madison Sittler. Where's our divided? There's no wait. Let's go back over here. When I had r squared equals a over pi, did I change anything with a and pi? No, I just put the square root sign over it. So Lauren is saying
C equals the square root of b squared plus b.
Yeah, it's not pretty, but that's what it is. Not pretty, but that's what it is. Now, how about this? What if I said solve this for a? What if I wanted to solve this all for a? Ooh, this is a good time to use this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think the first thing I have to do is? Remember, I want to get the letter A all by itself without anything else on the side that's equal side. So Caleb, let me rewrite it here. Ooh, I kind of like yellow. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Fish would be the first thing I do.
Divide by b squared.
Not divide by, because is this a squared times b squared? It is a squared plus b squared, which means I would subtract b squared. Do the opposite. So I can't put that with this, so it's c squared minus b squared. So now I have a squared equals c squared minus b squared. And here's the big stretch. So what does the letter A equal? Andrew?
Square root of c squared minus b squared.
Exactly. All right. Really what you're doing on that, kids, in case you really want to know, is you're taking the square root of both sides. But what is the square root of a squared? What times what gives you a squared? Just a. So that's why you can just say, okay, I'm just going to make that a. This is going to be c squared minus b squared. Who feels personally self-fulfilled at this point in their life after learning this? This should. Chase says, whole new worlds have opened up for you today. Now I'm going to give you one more. Let's see where we go from here. What if you have this? Let's see if we've learned anything at all. P equals A plus B plus C. By the way, that'd be the formula for the perimeter of a triangle. Side A plus B. And I said solve that for B. Solve that equation for B, so it's B equals something. See if you get the fundamental rules of equations. Well, you guys go to Springfield soon, don't you? That's got to be exciting. Hopefully Brian won't hit you with a ball. Chris, have you ever been checked out for concussions?
No.
What kind of a ball was it, Brian?
So it sounds like
Like a hard soccer ball or one of them softball?
Software.
So you should be done because this is really not very difficult. What does B equal? What would B equal? Who thinks they have a firm grasp of reality? Notice there's no squares there, so you're not going to there be no square roots in your answers because we're not squaring anything. Not squaring anything. Yeah, people are erasing a whole lot of stuff there. Aaron Murray.
B equals B minus C minus A.
That's all you're doing. All of you're doing is subtracting this to the other side. So now you have P minus A equals B plus C, and then you subtract the C as well. P minus A minus C equals B. Anybody else get that? All you're doing is that. The fundamental rules are simple in all this. You just do the opposite. Lauren, what happened?
Yes, this is very.
Oh. Zachary, what did you do?
None.
Nothing? Well, that's why you got it wrong, because you have to do something. If you don't do anything, you don't have a chance of getting it
Well, I
right.
did something.
That's always good. All right, we're stopping there. You will run across this. Hopefully it'll help you with something.